September 3rd, 1777. The flag of the United States is flown in battle for the first time at the Battle of Cooch's Bridge, which led immediately to the Siege of Taintburg and is right around the corner from where the fudge is made. Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I am Zach Powers.
And returning once more, Chris Boriff, everyone.
Hello, everybody! Hey!
Hey, how you doing? I wasn't sure the kind of energy you would bring, and it was very much like sort of journeyman youth pastor.
Sure, I've gotten that.
Yeah, Chris has brought some puppets to teach us about the dangers of drugs.
Yep, abstinence-only education is the best.
Listen, we're already putting out disclaimers.
I don't know if you've heard of a little lady named Nancy Reagan, but she's got a slogan of her own.
Once you pop, you just can't
Unfortunately,
stop.
we can't repeat it without many bleeps. Listen.
Yeah, in private, let's be honest. They said just say no. In private, the Reagans, they were saying a different word that started with N. Pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Fuck the Reagans.
Yep, exactly. Oh, man. I imagine it's probably like Nixon tapes level, but...
Sure, yeah.
I've...
Just make an arms deal, send some crack to
I mean,
wherever.
Here's the thing. They started bussing in the age and the spirit of social justice. Maybe they just decided to up it to airplane delivery of crack cocaine. They were just trying to move it forward for the kind people working in the lower class areas that they were, like... doing their thing with. Well, anyway, that one kind of lost train in the middle of it. There you go. Go ahead.
Listeners, speaking of losing train, we've been sort of off schedule lately, of course, as we've talked about before. I have a baby. We all have jobs. And it's hard being in your 30s. Just straight up. So thank you for being patient with us. And we are gearing up. We are in the middle of our Figures from Anti-Fascist History series, which is going to be timely for the next several years. Let's just face it. And then we're gearing up for Halloween.
Very possibly decades.
I chose to be a little optimistic, but yeah, quite true.
Yeah. Just before the election, where the threat of fascism looms largest, at least for the next couple of years, we're going to switch to spooky stories.
Yeah, just some serial killers and cannibal monsters, just to sort of take the edge off a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna lean away from the Schindler's List and lean into the Pennywise the Clown for a little while.
Yeah. When I heard you guys are doing it, and then it was also called The Revisionists, I was like, this is a bold choice all around, guys. Anti-fascists, and the show's called Revisionists. You're going to have a very interesting CEO time with the people who organically find the podcast.
What if they were pro-fascist? What if the fascists made it work? Maybe it wasn't such a bad idea.
Jeez.
Have we considered what Francisco Franco could have done?
Of course, the oldest Franco brother. So dumb.
Really, the most likable of the Francos.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on who you ask. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Franco, obviously a fan favorite. I like the bonus Franco. I don't remember the rest of the Jonas brothers' names.
Oh, okay. Well, listeners, what we do on the show is, first of all, we don't book fascists. So typically we don't run the risk of someone being like, you know what I want to talk about.
At least no one who is openly a fascist. They might. What secrets Chris holds in his heart, we don't truly know.
I mean, I turned 43 recently. I could be on the verge of becoming the next, maybe Rush at Limbaugh, something like that. Maybe not a full Limbaugh, maybe a half.
You know, Rush didn't have any political beliefs, like, ever until he was like 35 years old.
Until he started getting paid for them, basically.
Yeah. He just landed a right-wing radio gig and suddenly became Rush Limbaugh.
Which somehow makes it worse to me.
Yeah, like, truly. In his 30s, he was just like a regular-ass DJ, never expressed any political opinions whatsoever. Count by his friend's account, didn't have any real political beliefs, didn't even vote. And then...
Are you also saying wild that like the conservative radio station was like, yeah, let's go with this guy. Let's go with fucking the Morning Zoo crew.
Yeah, he has no idea what's going on in politics. Great, let's put him on. Mm-hmm.
Perfect for conservative policy. Mm-hmm. Great.
The previous guy got fired for being super racist.
Then what did they stop? Were they just like, well, we changed hands once, can't do it again?
I guess. I don't know. He got too big for I think he got big beyond that radio station.
I can't remember. Who was the racist before Limbaugh? Was it
I can look
Don
it up real quick,
Imus?
but we could continue.
Was it
talking.
Imus?
No, Imus was like
it was somebody
another cat.
Not super.
Was it
well known? He was like a local San Diego or San Francisco fella.
Okay. So it was that, or like a regular man-cow Muller.
About. Yeah, he made racist jokes about some Asian, like, city councilman or something like that.
I remember. Yeah, I remember hearing about that after Rush Limbaugh thankfully died. Yeah. Anyway, shout out Steve Mudflat McGrew or whatever.
Shout out the Grim Reaper of Death for finally taking back one for the team.
Yeah, the guy he replaced was a local fellow, and Limbaugh made it national.
Gotcha.
Well, listeners, last time on the show, we discussed Raoul Wallenberg. Sorry, I had it and then it escaped me for a second. Last time on the show, we discussed Raoul Wallenberg, and of course, rightfully, the true story won, where he literally saved, at the most conservative estimate,
hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. So, this is one of those series where I just like openly express how uncomfortable the very premise of the show makes me sometimes. This is just, look, it's a conceit. We don't have to lean that far into it. It's just a goof.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we're discussing Sister Kate McCarthy. And Chris, you're doing the actual history?
That is correct.
All right. So whenever you're ready, take us away.
That was my cue. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about Sister Kate McCarthy. She is a 6-foot tall nun. I'm starting this story out with that because I just think it's important to remember every other part of this story happens with an extremely tall Irish Catholic nun.
I missed the 6-foot tall part, but if you see pictures of her face, she has very much like tall nun energy, which I went to Catholic school. It is a thing.
Yeah, it's intense. It looks like you wouldn't want to take her in a fist fight, and she could definitely pull you like through a wall like a RoboCop to make you stop doing whatever you're doing. So here's what goes on. She's born in a place called Drominity League, which is somehow in Cork, Ireland. When I looked this up, they described it with 3 names or 4 names, and they tried to explain what it was. And when I looked it up on the map, I was like, all right, Cork, Ireland, I don't understand what the rest of those streets or meanings mean, so I'm going to give up on it, but it's way south. So, you know, she's out there kicking around. At 18, she decides, I'm going to become a nun. So that was immediately what she did out of the gate. It was like 1913, she joined the Franciscan orders. And
listen, obviously, this woman, she's included in the series. Great. Love that for her. Lame move to become a nun at 18. Real loser stuff. To join the church.
Wow. I feel awkward because I'm an atheist and I have to fight the argument for a nun on this.
Look,
Well,
here's the thing about nuns.
Uh-huh.
Nuns are actually, there's definitely some shitty nuns. Mother Teresa, kind of. But like a lot of nuns are actually pretty tight.
Well, I guess so, this lady will grow on you.
I object to the structure of Catholicism in a lot of ways. Nuns?
Not all nuns, Brian says.
I fuck with nuns. Yeah.
Not all nuns.
Well, you might fuck with nuns. I don't think nuns fuck with anybody else but Jesus. But here's the thing.
No, they do not.
Evidently, she got a new name. Like, I didn't know this about nuns. Like, they marry, I guess, Jesus, and then get, like, their gang name. So in her case, it was, like, Sister Mary Lawrence, which is fine.
Jesus.
I just didn't realize it was a thing.
How many... Jesus got a few people lined up on the side, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a harem. It's a harem.
It's part of the vows to become Jesus' side piece.
God. So anyway, she
3 days on the cross, but then you know, I keep getting older. They stay the same age. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's also like, you know, he has to lay down, but he'll rise again in 7 days. That's the thing. He has that refractory period you have to wait around for. So
it was 3, but sure.
3? I thought it was 7 days. I have no idea. I'm
Just
an atheist. I follow Catholic Church the same way.
In 7 days.
I follow it the same way I follow Marvel.
Jesus was resurrected on the 3rd day.
It's all Marvel shit to me. It's like they don't have the Thor guy in there, but it's still okay. It's, you know.
By the Thor guy, do you mean Thor?
Yeah, the Thor guy.
The Norse one or the Marvel one? It's fuck it. Who cares?
Freya's bro, I guess. So Bethune, France. Let me just jump us forward to this. War breaks out. War. Hot action war.
What is
World
it?
War One. Exactly. And so what happens is
the answer was absolutely nothing, but sure.
Nothing. But she goes from Cork, Ireland to Bethune, France. So this lady decides to go to a war situation, not away from a war situation, because again, 6-foot-tall nun who doesn't mess around.
The town is called Bethune?
Bethune. Bethune.
Yeah, it's probably got some very pretty French way of saying it. I'm just pronouncing it like that guy from the Angus movie, Angus Bethune, because I think that was his character name. Dated myself. Anyway, so
I should say so, because I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
No one remembers Angus. Okay. Anyway, war breaks out, and she does her bit in it. She's at a field hospital in Bethune, France. She's actually working as a nun and as a nurse, doing the classic nurse-nun business. After the war, she decides she's done with
nurse by day, nun by night.
Yep. And she decides she's done with it in France once the war is done. So she goes to Louisiana until World War II breaks out. And she decides again to go from Louisiana in the chill 1920s to 1939s.
Oh, to classic Tennessee Williams.
Yeah.
Chill for some people. Louisiana in the 1920s.
We should be clear. I very plainly meant just chill for a white nun who went to Louisiana and was also 6 feet tall and a Catholic.
But for her, it's all fucking mint juleps and Paul Newman in a cast dealing with the fact that he's secretly gay.
Big Papa or whatever.
Bach. He played Bach.
She was also, I just saw this, the eldest of 9 children, which for the Irish is basically an only child, I think.
Probably. I mean, she probably most likely became a nun because there were no parents left. I'm assuming that her parents were so old, they were like, you have to leave or you have to come with us to the home.
Yeah, and just to clarify, he played Brick. I'm sorry, I don't want to get emails. We're not big enough a podcast to get emails, but either way, I don't want to get emails.
Yeah, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is a great movie. Is that the movie you guys are talking about? Probably not.
Yeah, Paul Newman in a cast fighting gay. How many movies are there where Paul Newman is a man in a cast who is secretly a repressed homosexual?
Set in New Orleans.
Sure. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
And there's also Cats on a Hot Tin Roof, where Mr. Mistopheles is a repressed homosexual with a broken leg.
Who just has to find his secret name.
Played by Paul Newman.
finally be himself. Okay, so back to it. World War II. She is back in the heated heart of France. She has gone to Bethune to once again be a nurse. And here's what goes down. She decides she doesn't want to do the nursing this time. She wants to go to the next step. She wants to actually cause trouble for the Nazis. So what she does is this. She joins the Musée de l'Homme, which I did not pronounce right, but is like Museedelhomme. And evidently it's a big part of the French...
You honestly got pretty close.
How do you pronounce it? Do you know?
Musée de l'Homme.
Okay, good. That's far prettier than what I said.
Let's be real.
I mean,
no, I was definitely falling off a log.
Look, I'd rather say you got pretty close and be generous than be like, "Fuck you, you piece of shit, you non-French speaking fuck."
That's the sort of hosting I would expect. That's the thing. It's too friendly here. But yeah, so she joins the French resistance. She's doing her thing. She's making sure that people get out safe. She actually gets 120 Allied soldiers out in her time doing this, except it eventually comes down the line where in 1941, a courier gets caught and tortured by the Nazis, and he winds up having to give up our good friend Sister Kate to the Gestapo. This is where the story gets a little bit more intense because some of the stuff happening is real stuff.
Yeah. So again, we're gonna put it in the show notes, but gonna put a very specific content warning right here.
Yeah. So basically, what goes on is her courier gets caught and arrested by the Gestapo, and after he's been tortured, he winds up giving her up. And this is before the intense portion of sending people to camps. So what they were doing at the time is anyone who was a political dissenter, rather than killing them right off, they would beat them severely and arrest them. So she actually went into solitary confinement for a year. And in 1942, they finally held her court case, which was also when they decided to finally clear out their jails, and they sentenced her to death. And if you think that the story is about to end, it's not. This keeps going. Basically, she got bounced around to different jails after this, and I guess nobody really wanted to be the one to actually execute a nun. So they kept kind of passing it along.
Yeah, it's bad luck.
I don't want to do this. You want to do this? Let's get someone else to do this. So she wound up bouncing around to...
That's why they used to call hot potato death row nun.
Jesus. Yes. Yeah. The child's game. Death row nun. Yes.
Honestly, for most of history, that sounds like most children's rhymes.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And yeah, so what happens is a series of her getting passed to Dusseldorf, Lubeck, Hamburg. Finally, once the war is really getting going and they have the concentration camps set up, she, in 1942, gets sent to Ravensbrück, which is a women's concentration camp. And during this period of time, she got herself into more trouble. Basically, the reason she eventually went to this concentration camp is because she would do this form of resistance anywhere she got sent, where she would just resist whatever they asked her to do. So, nothing big, nothing too dramatic, but when they asked her to make gas masks, she made a big deal about not making gas masks. So, when she was in jail, and they were like, all right, well, we're going to send you to the concentration camp. So that's when she ended up in Ravensbrück. Like I said, this was a women's concentration camp, but that doesn't mean that it was even slightly nice. It was not safe at all. Like, she would see people beaten to death in front of her. Again, super serious topic. To get through this quickly, she would work 12-hour days. This is all hand labor. They would give them tasks like digging in sand or unloading coal or digging up tree roots. During this period of time, she caught typhus. And they also were giving people like a subsistence diet of turnip water to survive on. She would get a boiled turnip in water once a day, and that was it. she went from 70 kilograms to 26 kilograms. And to put that in American numbers, she went from 6 foot tall, 154 pounds, to 6 foot tall, 57 pounds. So
Jesus.
If you can think of her size, it's incredibly grim. But I would like to point out one other thing in this story. She keeps avoiding the gas chamber by hiding. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to just throw out there that she is probably better at hiding than the Bigfoot, because she's a 6 foot tall woman hiding in a concentration camp from Nazis who were solely focused on jamming her into an oven. And she says, "No, I'm going to hide." And she does it successfully 4 times, just completely avoids, runs and hides. They pick her out in the line again and again and again. It just doesn't happen. And then finally, in 1945,
this does also go along.
Yeah.
This does go along with something we pointed out last time and will continue to point out. Nazis, very dumb. A lot of them just incredibly
and or there's like an element, I think, of laziness. They're brutal, but ultimately if their brutality requires a degree of extra effort beyond pulling a trigger or swinging a truncheon, then I don't want to fill out the fucking paperwork. I don't want to look.
Yeah, I mean that's partially why it was so mechanized, pretty much.
I mean, not unlike cops, I might say. Yeah. But I don't want the part where I like the part where I hurt people. I don't want to do the fucking work part.
Yeah.
That actually does sound kind of correct. Side note, I also am a big dork for the Enigma box. Mm-hmm. So one of the fun things with that is that originally there's a guy named Marian Rejewski, who you guys should probably...
This is for listeners who don't know, the evil scheme the Riddler has in Batman Forever.
Yes, the Enigma box.
Yeah, the Enigma box.
Yeah. No, it's the, whatever it was, the German super secret code system that was unbreakable for a while. The original version of it, before it became completely unbreakable, was the one they were invading Poland with. There was a math genius named Marian Rejewski, which I really encourage you guys to do some research on, or maybe even do an episode on, because he is fantastic. Basically, using a simple set of math, he was able to break down the code and break so that they could actually find out what the tank orders were and things like that. Eventually, the box was changed to involve a series of wires, at which point that code breaking system no longer worked. However, the reason I'm bringing this up is because they found one quirk in German mindset that allowed them to keep breaking the dang code daily. And it was that amongst the many choices they had between numbers and things like that, they could choose a letter to key in for the start of the code. And wouldn't you know it, being German, they did it alphabetically. They didn't pick the number randomly. They just did it alphabetically, and they never changed that tactic ever. So it kind of goes with what you're saying, that the least amount of resistance is always what an evil Nazi is going to go for. That makes sense.
Yeah. We referenced, probably I think before we recorded, The Wire briefly, but there is a code that is broken in the first season of that this kind of reminds me of, where they can't figure it out for the longest time, and when they break it, it's incredibly easy because, people who have no mathematical or vocabulary skills have to be able to know it very quickly. Mm-hmm. So it just becomes it's like this thing of you got to teach this code, which to be effective has to be complicated to grunts who are dummies. And it's the same thing. That same laziness that gives away the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, to kind of finish off Sister Kate's trek through World War II, she is liberated from their camp by the Swedish Red Cross in 1945. She goes to, I believe, England at this point to recuperate from what has occurred to her and gain her weight back. She was able to see her brother Dan for the first time since 1936 while she was recuperating, and eventually returns to France in 1946 and is decorated by Charles de Gaulle as well as Winston Churchill for her work bringing people across the border. And just so recently as, I think last year, there is a 92-year-old woman whose name is escaping me right now, but I will find it. Essentially, this lady who's now 92, sorry, there might be an edit point here real quick. Okay, Kate McCarthy. Nope, that is the sister we're talking about. Crap, I should have had this written down. Sylviette Leloup. That's who we're talking about. This lady was about 5 years old, I think, during World War II. And she has a vague memory of a nun sneaking her to freedom. Like, she got handed off by a number of nuns throughout her time in France. And she's now attempting to find out through the family of Kate McCarthy if by any chance this woman was the lady who helped her to freedom. This lady's 92 now. And a great deal of the information I got from this came from the article, so I can send it to you if you want to put that in your show notes. Yeah. But it's kind of charming to see a little old lady who's now 82, or 92, excuse me, and still alive because this lady helped her out.
Well, and before we move on, one of the things I do just love about Sister Kate McCarthy, when she was like in prison, like before she was moved to Ravensbrück, part of like her resistance to like the forced labor, you mentioned like I'm not gonna fucking make gas masks, but also she did engage in some other acts of sabotage. One, like they were like ordered to make like shirts for German officers, and she like would flush the shirt buttons down the toilet just to stop the assembly line, basically.
I think I remembered hearing that, and it's also the parachutes, correct?
Yeah, and this one is my absolute favorite. Where she was given, apparently, and very thankful no, I'm not going to say that, but like very thankful the Nazis were very dumb because they made the people they imprisoned manufacture belts for paratroopers, for German paratroopers to hold their parachutes. And so what Kate McCarthy did is she would go through the belts she made and unpick like every like fifth stitch she made, so that the parachutes would fall apart. And it's estimated that she killed like hundreds of German paratroopers this way. Just because like they would jump out of a plane and go into free fall.
Yeah, it's some real genius there. You put your people who hate you in charge of your safety equipment. That's always a question. Yeah.
One of the article I read about that also, I pulled it up. So it right after it talks about her like sending hundreds of German paratroopers to their death, the next paragraph is a quote from someone that just said she was very feisty and had a brilliant sense of humor. It's like, yeah, dog. Yeah, that's feisty as hell, dude. But
yeah,
yes.
This lady's badass.
Yeah, that's a badass 6-foot nun. I have no evidence she ever played basketball, but I imagine she could dunk on someone. But yes.
6 foot, yeah, quite tall.
Like, I'm 5'7", and I can't, but I feel like that 5 inches makes up for a lot of things. But anyway, Chris, thank you for...
I don't think we mentioned this. He passed away in 1971 on June 21st.
Yeah, she was 76, I believe was the math when I did it.
Every story has an end.
Yes. But Chris, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. That
Zach?
was a lot of facts.
Yeah, that's what we do, baby. And now this is the other thing we do, baby. Zach, whenever you're ready.
Sister Kate McCarthy. She actually went back to Louisiana for a time because that's where she was from originally. She was born Dolores Wilson, and she grew up in the heart of, Louisiana. A lot of jazz, a lot of early African American music. That was what was influencing her life. And as she got older, she, at age 17, witnessed a mob murder.
Oh.
Yeah. And she had to be put into witness protection. So she, the FBI cooked it up. I guess she's a French nun. And so she went out to France.
This is when they had the Looney Tunes writing staff coming up with identities for witness protection.
Yeah, I mean, she went out to France and she taught all these dry ass buffoon area nuns how to really dance and sing and in a real Louisiana style, which was a lot of fun for everybody involved. I don't remember how that movie ended, but it worked out. And there was
it got a sequel, so I imagine it was a pretty good ending.
And there was another adventure after that I don't remember at all.
Where she was back in the habit, yeah.
Yeah, she went back to the habit. Presumably at the end of the first one, she was able to go back to her old life, but went back to the habit out of choice this time because she had so much fun being a nun. In the meantime, she is
no longer on the run.
She is doing all the stuff Chris said. It's not like she's not doing that. This is just supplemental life material for the most part. But when you have to go into the witness protection, you learn a lot about keeping yourself out of the limelight, hiding, protecting your identity.
No snitch.
So, yeah, exactly. So eventually, when she goes to these prisons and she gets picked out for terrible things, she knows how to avoid those things, and it's by adopting a new identity. Say, a Scottish nanny who gets pie on her face. That's not the one we saw earlier. It's a different person. She finds a mask inhabited by the spirit of Loki, right? You can use that to undo a lot of stitches very fast, and also this green-faced
and swallow dynamite or whatever.
Yeah, that person must be new here. That's not... not the one you're going to pick.
Somebody stop them, everyone.
Are you trying to suggest that she might have had some supernatural control over object permanence?
Yeah. Yeah, and she exactly. And she would say things like smoking and somebody stopped me. And nobody stopped her, and the world is better for it. So that's good. That's good.
Is that your whole counterpoint?
So nobody did stop that. Yeah. So
I'm not sure if you're laughing or weeping right now.
At a certain point.
Also, that person that Chris mixed up, who he called Kate McCarthy near the end of his story, she single white femaled her for a while, so that's why
Jesus.
he mixed them up. That's why that happened. So
that is a very different sort of movie than the ones we've been dealing with.
But she dealt with it. It was fine.
Look, also, apparently, Sister Act ends with the hitman catching up with the nun and ordering his goons to kill her, but they don't want to shoot a nun, basically.
That's practice.
Also, less than a year between, like, the release... No, sorry, like a year and a half between the release of Sister Act and Sister Act 2 back in the Habit.
That's like 80s slasher turnaround. Yeah, that's crazy.
Which one had Lauryn Hill in it?
That was Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit.
Which, by the way, Back in the Habit, one of the best subtitles for any movie. Yeah. Underrated.
Very, very good.
Really, really good pun.
And also just like very, very far down. First of all, Harvey Keitel plays the bad guy in Sister Act. Very far down. Second from bottom on the cast list for Sister Act is the dude playing, quote, Pope John Paul II, which I didn't remember him coming up in the story at all.
I don't remember that happening either. Anyways, later in life, after the war, she got to date young Ted Danson for a while, so...
Until he did some blackface, right? I think that was the end of that.
Problem. That was definitely a problem.
Wait, so we're back in Whoopi Goldberg territory now.
Who's this Whoopi Goldberg letter you're talking about? We're still talking about Sister Kate McCarthy.
And also, she was in Ghost. She was a major. She won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for Ghost.
Yeah, so I believe she was 96 at the time.
Yeah.
Sorry to speak over you, Zach. Please tell us more.
Yeah, so that's that's what really. I mean, all the stuff Chris said. Like, I'm not just really refuting any of it. I'm just adding details.
I mean,
she
and
found
of course,
a magical mask.
She was sort of an advisor to Jean-Luc Picard.
At a dangerous point, she put some pie on her face and said, "Oh, hello," to disguise. She was,
and she used to send secret messages back and forth with records playing old Rolling Stones albums, like Jumping Jack Flash.
She was.
I'm just remembering deep cuts.
One negative point. She was kind of a dick to Pierce Brosnan, even though he seems like a really good guy. But that's the only thing that I can say against her.
Is this a movie or is this Sister Kate McCarthy in general?
I didn't understand one of my disguise references because I was doing a lot of 90s comedies was Mrs. Doubtfire. That's the pie in the face and the nanny aspect.
I thought, honestly, for a second you were giving some like behind the scenes goss there and forgetting that Pierce Brosnan was like the stepdad or whatever in that movie.
Oh yeah, he is. He's also apparently a very nice person in real life.
Yeah, that doesn't... He's got a nice face.
Yeah.
Zach, thank you.
Yep.
Before we move on to judgment, listeners, I just want to say that if you want to write us a letter, leave us a comment, ask us a question, you could do so at revisionistpodcast.com. Just click on the contact button or reach out on Instagram. Just search Revisionist Podcast. Also, leave a review of this show on iTunes or whatever podcast service you use. Written reviews are especially helpful. So, I don't know, just give us 5 stars and write your ideal nun height or something like that. And we'll be very thankful.
Whoa. This sounds like a fetish that I don't want to explore.
Nun gigantism?
That's true. Yeah, if anyone gives us a nun the height of the vampire lady from the new Resident Evil, I'm gonna have to shut down iTunes comments for a little bit. They're making Sister Act 3? Sorry. Sorry. Anyway.
Oh, her story's not finished, actually. She's still alive, and her adventures continue.
Finally, the Sister Act cinematic universe will reach its conclusion.
And fuck it, she's in the new Hocus Pocus, too.
I'd be so impressed if they got Lauryn Hill to come back for Sister Act 3. I would be very impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. So
that what could the subtitle be, though? They can't beat Back in the Habit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Listen, we don't have to think about it. We aren't going to think of something clever as Back in the Habit in the next two,
Oops, I'm in the habit again. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
It'll be like something bad, like rehabilitation or something like that, or being rehabilitated or something like that, but it'll be like with like a little cartoon squirrel on the poster, and you'll be like, I don't get that pun, and they'll still put it out because they'll be like, no, it's a pun.
Yeah, no, they'll say it's a squeakquel.
Yeah, squeakquel. It's a pun. Yeah, no, it's a pun.
Chris and Zach, you co-host the Movie Trap podcast, which you're actually recording right after this.
Yeah, I've actually made several references to movies we've covered on the Movie Trap during the course. One of which we're about to talk about.
Wait, which one?
Yeah.
The Dazed and Confused reference is, in fact, in reference to an episode we're about to record.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we are going to be jumping into that post-haste right after this, and then it'll come out probably in 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, you were super professional in telling people how to interact with you. We can never figure it out. If anybody wants to hit us up, come say hello to us. We're on Twitter. Heck, we're on YouTube. That's where we put it out most of the time that I see it. If you want to come say hello to us on Movie Trap, come say hello. It's much like this show, except it's more me, Zach, and another guy named Carlson,
who's also former guest Russell Carlson, future guest.
Yes,
once and future guest. Yeah, and listeners, as for me, stay tuned. I plan on doing another bake sale coming up, probably for. To raise money for RIP Medical Debt, which is a group that buys people's outstanding medical debt for like pennies on the dollar and just forgives it. So check them out because they do a lot of really cool work. And also, if you know anyone who has a bunch of medical debt, you can refer them to them. But check that out. I'll be mentioning it on the Revisionist Instagram. So that brings us to Judgment, and honestly, I was very prepared, as I think I probably will be throughout this miniseries, to go with the actual history. Zach did kind of still win me over. I think I still need to, like, just on a moral level, go with the actual history.
Well, you have to remember that nobody stopped her.
Yeah. Fucking goddamn it. Maybe The Mask is a very good movie, and I'm just maybe
the comic book. The comic book is a very good comic book for the 90s. The movie is its own separate world. Once you get to the Baby Mask movie, you're basically on bath salts.
Is that the one with Jamie Kennedy?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I remember that. I remember that experience. But listeners, voting is now open on Patreon.
And I believe the villain in The Mask is played by one of the underlings in Judgment Night, a movie we've covered on the Movie Trap.
That is correct. They couldn't possibly have had the actual villain from The Mask because he was a giant, creepy man that looks kind of like Marv from Sin City. It's like a big beast of a man. You can't really have that as a character, I guess.
Oh, Cameron. Anyway, I gotta stop looking up.
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz.
Oh, Cameron Diaz. You don't remember Cameron Diaz was in The Mask?
No.
That was her first movie.
I mean, with Jim Carrey's magnetic performance. Anyway, I gotta stop looking. Anyway, sorry, a member of the Wirecast is also in The Mask. Listeners, voting is now open on Patreon. I'm gonna keep looking up.
Michael B. Jordan is in The Mask.
Oh man, if Michael B. Jordan played Baby Mask, that would have been, I think, a much better movie. Other than whatever shitty kid they got to play the baby in that movie.
So CGI homunculus is what they had in that movie.
Not what you think. That's actually the kid's initials and last name. the school was very rough for CGI homunculus. Voting is also going to be open on Instagram, the last minute voting, the second Wednesday after this is released. So check that out. But that'll do it for this episode. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show. It was great being here talking about a Catholic as an atheist.
Did you say which one you voted for? Did I blank out for?
The actual history. Just morally, I feel compelled to.
All right.
For a second, I realized, I was like, wait, do I have a vote? That seems crazy.
No, that is crazy. That is...
Yeah, it is crazy. You're a woman. We aren't going to let you.
Aye. Okay. I gotta go. I left... Go.
Somebody's playing a game of Death Row None.
Somebody stop me. All right. For everyone here at The Revisionist, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Have a good time.
I did what I did with this episode.
No, that was fun. I liked it.
Bye, Condios.